All right. Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday to everyone joining us for another Engineering the Markets. My name is Jared. It is November 3rd, 2022. And we're going to take a look at what happened yesterday. It's been an eventful week for trade. We certainly had some shakeup in the overall structure and the market posture. We knew that the FOMC statement and press conference was going to add new volatility into the marketplace, and we got that in spades. So I definitely want to take a look at what's changed. What were some of the discussions yesterday that might have brought us back into a position of fear, possible additional downside in the future. Maybe even circling back to that 2008 correlation, which I still believe is fairly well intact at this point in time. So, without further ado, let's take a look at what actually took place yesterday. And as always, let's talk through quantitatively what occurred. The market moved approximately the equivalent of a weekly expected move on the SPX index based around yesterday's downside. So if you're looking just high to low, the entire range of yesterday's trade was equivalent to what the marketplace was pricing for the entire week. And this is that continuous claim that so far this year, the SPX has been doing a less than ideal job at pricing volatility accurately within the short term series. Um, breaching expected move on this particular session is not necessarily the end of the world, but it does put us into a posture to where if we can't reclaim later today or maybe into Friday inside of that option expected move, we could be seeing a little bit of forced hedging back to the downside. And it's just that market dynamic of certain market participants have to hedge. They're going to be the ones driving with the market's pricing to the downside. And to some degree, they actually provide the fuel that leads the market lower during those periods of decline. So we've seen it bullish, we've seen it bearish. It's not to say that it's a one directional dynamic, but like expected move, you need to know when you're inside and when you're outside. And currently, based on yesterday's close, we do technically have a full breach occurring because we were able to close outside of that range. And that puts us in a very risky posture for additional downside. So, from that point of view, we can also take a look at our SPY and talk through some of the levels that we're starting to push away from, along with this relative posture where we're looking at things starting to morph. The structure is changing, some of the dynamics of pullbacks are changing, and similarly to what we've discussed, we knew that this was more or less a corrective move in the market. I've continuously called it a corrective wave with that intention. And the reason being is it's really hard to reclaim certain prices whenever you've had such a steep decline. Often there's going to be some mid-range defense. There's often going to be these fib retracement levels that provide some of the initial dynamic support and resistance. And usually market theory indicates that a lot of these levels will show over time relative to price interaction. Knowing where those levels are and to some degree having a bit of confluence with previous highs and lows gives us edge as traders. We know where price resistance is, we know where synthetic or dynamic resistance happens to be, and all of these coming together in the same place with a catalyst to drive price provides very good risk to reward. It's a great trade setup for larger price movement. So what levels specifically am I referring to? Well, if we're looking from high to low, we do want to kind of see how much of that pull up were we able to reclaim. And from the lows of, let's say, the roughly 200-day moving average rejection, our last swing high in the S&P, we were at 50%. So it was a great rally from those areas, but we pretty much went there in one straight shot. Additionally, 50% tends to be your mid-range, and that's usually where you'll get some of your stall, a lot of sort of reassertation of whether prices should be continuing to price higher. Usually 61.8 has the potential to change trends in the future, but 50% is kind of like your initial stall point. It's where resistance tends to live, or support if it is a retracement to the downside. So the S&P is at this moment retracing 50% of its price, and we have seen a rejection. So we do have a technical base rejection. This is, of course, indicated by a couple of things. Delete this for now. One, we've changed the trend. And this is kind of the important aspect of how do you know that a bigger move might be coming? You first have to end a smaller time frame trend. And one of the key levels that I was mostly focusing on for bulls is, can we remain inside of this trading channel? What you'll notice is the past couple of sessions, we've been hitting our head against the September balance range highs. These are indicated by these price interactions here. Excuse me. So you can see the S&P did have that high to low trade back in mid-September. It was a 3-day balance range. We did break it bearish. And as we reclaim these prices, we're getting similar interaction. This 390 rough area, you know, the actual high here is 390.3. That has been a ceiling for price. We had a great run into this resistance, but as a bull, you have to recognize that this is the moment to be taking profit. It's the level that is going to require additional setup and ultimately going to be one of the riskier areas to continue to remain bullish in this market, because you're trying to go for that final wave, that final extension. And once we get our channel breakdown, we really know that the trend is changing. The hourly trend is broken. Excuse me. The hourly trend is broken. It doesn't necessarily mean that all short-term trends are over, but some of the structure on 4-hour and daily hasn't really been revealed yet. And this is where we need to be cautious, assuming certain interactions are going to take place in the future. For one thing that I'll be looking at moving forward is, how does price interact with the 20 period on the daily? We were able to breach the 20 period for the first time during this roughly flag-based pattern, this bullish hourly channel that the S&P was able to create. Now, can we see some additional support, even though the longer time frames remain bearish? You know, the weekly and to some degree, some of the larger wave structures are still inherently bearish, albeit that was a great period to look more bullish in the short term. So this technical rejection is going to be the focus moving forward. It's likely going to anchor any sort of assumption about further upside in this market. And specifically for the S&P, you want to be thinking about relative price here, because a lot of traders will focus in on what's occurring here and now. But remember, not every participant is looking at swings, pivots, and these indications of new highs and lows. They're more concerned about whether prices are advancing or declining relative to periods of time. And I think one thing to not really forget about is how extreme price activity got back in June. For the most part, the S&P is technically at a higher price than that extreme low. The question is, as we come back into it for a third time, in this case, establishing this very important low, the testing that occurred back in October and the eventual CPI rejection of further downside. And now we're getting that likely back test, albeit in a position that looks fairly weak. So we need to be extremely careful assuming that anything is going to occur until we start to get back to these extremes. And even though it doesn't look extreme yet on our current time frames, it is technically true that most S&P participants this year are down. The pricing model for this entire product has been bearish, and not many participants adding new allocation are up this year. It's just how this particular benchmark has performed. You've either had to price yourself very extreme in the price lows or initiated positions recently. Those are really the only participants who are up in the S&P, as a hold, as a positional allocation. So I find that to be pretty important to think about those participants. How are they moving right now? What is their reaction to what occurred yesterday? And to some degree, are they still going to provide additional support? At this point, are they willing to get out of the market and to some degree have a little bit of the fuel for a potential new low in the S&P, a new fresh fear low, something that we haven't seen this year, and another repricing to the downside. So we'll be watching for this, and obviously I think this is a great area to consider changing bias to some degree. For one, I would argue that if you're looking bigger picture, the weekly trend still remains quite bearish. We're going to be looking to see if this is enough interaction against a 20 period on the weekly. The idea that this is the weekly short-term trend, which is still bearish. Our weekly 50 remains elevated, but in a declining state. And this bounce that's occurred has been against the 200. I certainly can see the position here where we start to bounce back and forth. We get tight relative to price, and we're not seeing fresh lows, but we're also not able to clear that high. That is the posture that I could certainly foresee in the future, especially as the narrative is shifting back into a more hawkish stance with the Fed, and that's kind of where we'll end up our final discussion, along with what exactly is going to fuel another rally. What is I would say, the speculation? What earnings cycle is going to drive it? And to my mind, there's not much I can come up with that's going to be providing that fuel. Hence, we may say a bit range bound, but ranges on a longer term downtrend. The weekly probably being the most longest term trend that we need to ascertain, along with the monthly. Okay. Audio's good on YouTube. Man, gotta watch out for my voice cracks. So, um, for those on YouTube, apologies. We don't quite know what happened there, but we did recover. I was looking higher time frame. The monthly was not necessarily relevant to the discussion. Um, More so coming into the actual FOMC, the statement has been released. Posture is still 75-point rate hike. We are looking at a very hawkish Fed head chair, and a lot of the press conference questions were replied to in a hawkish stance. Um, Most of the questions revolves around the idea of a pause or pivot in some of the next meetings. Most of the language indicated that is not on the table, and that is not really a key driver of discussion because of certain data metrics that the Federal Reserve continues to see in our economy. So, um, can you explain the jobs report expectation? Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to look over it, so I won't be able to explain it without context. So, ultimately for today, I'm looking at a marketplace that's willing to sell off. You'll notice that the S&P continues to decline this morning. We are seeing fresh lows, and it looks like we're going to open lower in a gap down open. Understand where we're coming from. This is not just about the candle. It's about the balance range to some degree and the ability for the market to sell from these levels. Not only do these levels provide risk assessment, if we get rejection at resistance, we assume we're going to come back to the lows. Same thing if we go to the lows and we get rejection to the downside, we go to the highs. It trades like a range until it breaks. And this is a very clear breakdown from this balance range. The last time this happened, the S&P was able to sell lower than the June lows. And it also provided some of the lowest prices we've seen this entire year. That, of course, was coming off of a steeper sell-off, a steeper rejection from the 200 period. But just understand that this is the same posture as we had in September. It's the same technical rejection and breakdown look. And as far as projecting the move, we need to expect similar results. Anywhere within the 370 to 360 range is a very ideal target just for this market to return to, simply because of previous sell-offs from these levels. And that's really what we're doing as technical analysis traders. Everything revolves around what has happened previously and what's the potential for the market to move relative to a new or similar setup. A lot of the TA that we look at through some of these waves in the market are just trying to understand that risk assessment and understand who truly is in control of the price, especially on the higher time frames. As I mentioned before, the correlation to 2008 remains one of the things that I focus on more for those bigger picture analyses. So I'll go ahead and review that one more time just to kind of showcase how eerily similar things are looking this day and age. Understand that this can break at any time, but the model still fits what we're experiencing today. As we look at this time frame here, I've somewhat anchored where I believe we're currently sitting. If you're just looking at some of these wave patterns, the channel breaking doesn't have to be quite as extreme or in the same technical way. But these are the areas where the market can start to reassess whether they're truly trying to mark higher or it needs to return back to the lows and potentially break lower in the future. So I know this is probably the worst look for the S&P. Just understand that everything prior to this has been effective for trade, especially some of those larger retracements that we're seeing. A lot of them have been anchored in similar ways. They have some of the same downside potential, and it also evaluates risk here. We're at some risky price levels, especially if we start to see the S&P pull back into those CPI lows, because that is really all we're kind of holding on to as bulls. The bearish case is that we're still in a weekly downtrend and there is more potential downside looking into the next couple of months. So with all that said, there's about 5 minutes left. I think I'm going to call it a bit early today. I can hear my voice is kind of losing. I'll answer questions in the BBT chat. It's been a pretty eventful week, so I appreciate some of the commentary and just consideration for our technical setup. We've had a ton of activity here, and we had a lot of fun in Fort Lauderdale conducting this workshop. We're actually looking at improving and providing some of your feedback for the next round, along with how can we just improve overall as moderators, as content providers. This show, the pre-market prep, everything that we do, it's all a collective effort to really provide the best value for our team and for our members, for those who are joining us on YouTube. We welcome you to always join our community. We ask that you continue to like and subscribe to the channel if you love what we're doing this morning and every single morning for you, to get you ready for the trading day and also to prepare you for what is the best stocks in play and some of the best trade setups that we can find. We have a lot of good we have a lot of good earnings. Roku and Etsy. I'll let Carlos and Norm take over for that. But as always, thank you so much. Talk to you next week. Trade safe. And remember, like and subscribe if you like what you're seeing. We'll talk more next week.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the pre-market prep. I hope everyone is having an amazing morning. Hopefully, you guys had an incredible day yesterday. So, guys, give a big thumbs up for Jared every Monday through Thursday with Engineering the Markets. As he leaving us a little bit early there with his voice leaving him, and hopefully he can recover his voice, probably from all the screaming and fun he is having down there. Good morning, Norm. How you doing today, my friend?
Hey, good morning, buddy. I'm doing all right. I'm not prepared. I didn't realize you came. I've got a setting I've got to change. I'll be right back. So if you want to get started, maybe
Yeah,
go through what you got yesterday, and then I'll hop back on in just a second.
yeah, absolutely, brother. No problem. All right, guys, let's take a look at some of the stuff we had on our list yesterday, starting with again everything leading up to 2 o'clock. Some stuff was choppy and just a lot of sideways action, very similar to what you see here on the SPY. Right? If you look at Apple, Apple is like one example. It's identical to what you saw here, right? Just completely sideways until we had this pop, which looked promising, looked very promising at first, right? Think, okay, maybe this is positive news, and then this is when you get the nice little drop there you got after that. So very interesting there and the way that played out. And again, if you look at Apple and some other ones, identical. Like this is the Apple chart here. This is exactly the same of what the SPY did. Then we had NEO, we had BABA, right? Chinese tickers continue to just get not so great news from overseas with COVID lockdown still potentially happening or are happening. I don't know the exact details, but again, that still seems to rise up and is creating a lot of issues for Chinese companies and also any company that's based production is based out of China. So be on the lookout for that. It feels like every other day there's some kind of news that comes out of the Chinese government that changes these things from gapping up, gapping down. But the overall picture has not been great. If you look at any of these stocks, Neo, Baba, PDD, all of them, it's just been a constant downtrend. In fact, I'll show you Baba here. Look at the daily. Since June, some of these even further out, especially the EVs. If you look at Neo, even further out, they were a lot higher. They just been just getting crushed, crushed, crushed. A very significant drop in since December. But for the most part, on yesterday we had Baba, we had Neo. Let's zooming into our action here from yesterday. There we go. Neo was all over the place yesterday. I mean, popped up, sold off. It was really messy. AMD again, beautiful sell off here on AMD. Actually, much cleaner than Apple at the morning, and then just all the SPY taking over. Like we're not gonna even talk about this. This is just overall SPY action, not really any individual stock. Tesla also selling off as well, very similar to AMD. I mean, almost identical. Nice sell off there on the 9 moving average, and then the SPY, and then Amazon continues to sell off, guys, at 92 now. I mean, this thing is just, again, no mercy on Amazon. Look at the daily. Big sell off the day before, big sell off yesterday. I mean, the madness continues on this ticker here. So, pretty decent day. Not bad, not great. There were some tickers that were just horrible, and some other ones that were are decent. Norm, let's get to the market post, and then we'll come back and look at the gappers list this morning.
Yeah, I mean, we had some data come in. We had initial jobless claims and continuing claims drop at 8:30. I missed the number. Sorry. In the a little bit of confusion of getting started a minute early, it kind of messed me up. Foreign trade deficit, productivity, unit labor costs, they all dropped just under 2 minutes ago. 9:45, we got S&P, U.S. Services PMI. 10 a.m. We've got the ISM Services Index and factory orders. None of that really matters. Okay, thank you. Hamish telling me that initial claims came in a little bit weaker than expected, which is, I mean, it's roughly in line, 217,000 versus the 220 estimate. Continuing claims a little bit higher, 1.49 versus 1.45 million expected. So, I mean, not much of a difference, but yeah, the SPY's trying to have some hope that things are crappy enough that the Fed will stop. But as we heard yesterday, they're not going to.
No,
That's obviously, that's the news. That's the macro that's moving things today that we're going to be focusing on. The market's going to try to find a direction here in the next day or two and see where we go from there. If we can continue, we bounced a little bit. The SPY, if you show it daily, that would be awesome. We bounced a little bit and then we've pulled back in the last couple of days. So SPY wants to see if we're going to make lower lows or if this is just a little bit of a stall before we keep going higher. We've all got our opinions there. We've now come back below all those moving averages. Tend to think lower myself, but that's who knows. We'll see.
yeah, absolutely. Um, Definitely interesting as that daily you see there. Let's take a look at our gappers list this morning, guys. A lot of things in the red as the SPY is down a little bit shy of 1% at the moment. And you can see here plenty of tickers in the red. There's some tickers here that are heavy in the red, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, look at this thing here. I know
Yeah.
Roku earnings, right? Piton earnings, I believe
Most
as well.
Piton earnings.
Yeah, so I mean, but there's some stuff here getting slammed this morning.
Most of these are on earnings. So
Okay. All right. So
yeah.
we'll dive into those. And then a couple of things in the green, not anything exciting. And some of these tickers I think we looked at before. They're not great intraday companies, at least trading stocks. So let's dive into that. Let's see what we have going on here. We will start this morning with our gap up list of what is in the BTU. So we'll start there. And they are up 7% right now, 122,000 shares traded. We've seen this before, guys. Brutal daily chart. I
Yeah,
mean,
it
it is
generally is.
nasty.
This is a coal company. They just had earnings.
Mhm.
Obviously, energy is. I was gonna say it's been having problems in the sense of demand being there, but the Russia stuff in Ukraine and concern about enough energy, and then we've pulled back from highs. Coal is being in need and had been restricted, so they've been a beneficiary of that. But all that having been said, BTU trades terribly.
Yeah,
In
yeah,
usually,
it
usually,
really
not
does.
always. Usually,
Yeah, yeah. So again, not one I'm going to add to my list. Let me go ahead and remove some of the stuff we have here. Control A, Control X on Dash Trader Pro, guys, cleans these columns for you, these rows. So let's look at Crocs next. And this is this Crocs the shoes? The
yep,
Oh, okay. Um, doesn't look interesting. They're up 5.3. Is this earnings?
it's earnings. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
It,
Uh,
when I've seen this in the past, I've had it on my list from time to time. It doesn't trade very well. It's got a 40-cent roughly spread right now, which is kind of high on a $70 ticker. Not a ton of volume. It's quite boring. Who knows? Maybe it does something later, but doesn't really have me interested in it.
yeah. Um, have you wore any of these shoes before, Norm? Do you own a pair or no?
Um, the day I ate an Impossible Burger.
So we know that's not happening. But yeah, guys, I don't want to pair any of these, but people swear by on how comfortable they are, so it's just interesting. But yeah, guys, it just doesn't look great. Let's go down to Run this morning, and Run we have here. It is up 5.3, 210,000 shares traded. This one I remember seeing this one in the past. It doesn't trade very well, and this morning we're not seeing anything overly explosive or exciting on it neither. So.
They had
Norm, unless you
earnings. They
have,
had good
yeah.
earnings. It can trade well at times. It definitely needs more volume than it has now. So
Hmm.
maybe a secondary, but we've got some good stuff on the down list. So
Okay. Yeah, so we'll skip on it for now. Let's see the down list can fill us up pretty good. And we know we're going to be watching some usual suspects also with the way the market is going to react today. That alone should provide some good catalysts as well. So some good opportunities. Let's see what's gapping down. Let's start here. Down 27%. This is AUPH. Oh, I remember this. We used to trade this quite a bit, or at least it was active. Maybe not trade, but it was active quite a bit in the
I don't know
past.
that I've ever traded it. It's Canadian biotech.
Oh, maybe I'm
They had
confusing it.
earnings this morning. Uh,
Yeah,
it's tradable. It's got volume.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
$5 ticker. That doesn't really
Yeah,
toot
it's
my
not
horn.
fun. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm looking at the right one. This is the one that around this area was like gapping up every single day, if I remember correctly. But either way, they're down today. Their pre-market activity is not bad. 1 million shares traded right now, down 28%. And yeah, so this could be interesting. Maybe a good possible for the most part. I don't like the price on it. I wish it would be higher, but let's see what this turns out to be. 28%, guys, with a low of 460 this morning so far. Next on the list, LNC, and
No,
this
it's
is
not. Just delete
is
it.
not
It's a life
horrible.
insurance company. It trades.
Oh
It's
yeah,
noisy. It's garbage. Run.
life insurance, companies. I mean, they're brutal. They're not great intraday traders. They don't get great volume. They don't get great liquidity. Here's Roku. All right, Roku's definitely on my list. One of our
Yep.
favorites to trade. Norm, what's the latest and greatest on this?
They had earnings. I mean, it's not really surprising. So they earned bad earnings, bad guidance, warned of holiday stuff. Advertising sales suck right now. All of the above getting hammered. I'm frankly a little bit surprised to see it down 21% on that news. I because of my background, I'm in tune with the advertising business. Everybody knows the advertising business stinks right now. I mean, it's just how it works in the business cycle. So I'm a little bit surprised to see it not already baked in and have this much more downside on it. It's at the top of this one's at the top of my list.
Yeah, amazing volume today too. 937,000 on Roku pre-market. That is good stuff. So,
and as Jonathan's mentioning, Google can attest to that. We've had a number of other we had one yesterday. What did we have? Paramount. We've had a number of these companies come out, and actually, we've had a number of these companies come out and say advertising revenue is terrible right now. So it's a little surprising to see for me that it's hit this hard on it, but we'll.
Yeah, you would think with Google reporting not so long ago, they would have dropped down, and yeah, it is interesting actually. It is for them to be down that much. All right, next on the list, guys, Piton down 15.6 this morning, and they also got a great volume, 1.2 million shares traded. What's going on there?
They had the losings this morning. Can you believe this thing was $170-ish?
It's hard to believe, man.
Exercise bikes and how crazy this thing was the last couple years ago. $7.30.
It's unreal. When was the last time they were here? These guys have not had any split or anything, right? They haven't done any of that. Not that I could think of. So
no.
They're below their IPO based on what I'm seeing right now. Yeah, they are. IPO around 20.
I mean, I don't see how this company is going to go bankrupt, get bought out. Something's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, and they've been trying. They've been trying to get together with companies. Hasn't worked out, but they have a great product. Just got to figure it out. They got to figure it out. So down, guys, 15.4 right now, 1.2 million. I like Piton as well. I don't like the price as much. We're starting to get to that, that kind of funky price action below $10.
Yeah, that's my issue. I wish it was a little bit higher priced.
Yeah. I still think they can give us some opportunity. The volume is there. Let's see. Let's see, guys. We'll put it on here. Might not stay on our main list just because, again, the price, I don't like it as much. FTNT this morning, these guys are down 14%. Volume is not great, but a huge drop so far this morning.
They had earnings last night. It just popped up on the scanner because the volume just hit 100,000. I hadn't really looked into it since it was not on there. Not the greatest trader. From my experience, but who knows?
Yeah, I like the gap down, but everything else looks funky. I'm gonna keep it off. Maybe a possible, guys, for now. FTNT, and let's see what happens. All right, here's mRNA today. These guys are down 11.8 and a 622,000 shares traded. Big drop this morning, Norm. Is this earnings or?
Yeah, they had earnings. Yeah. Nobody wants to take the shots.
Yep. So big drop for them right now here, guys. Definitely in play. I do like this one. Just got to be careful. I think they can be choppy at that once that bell rings today. But I like the volume we're getting here, and I like this drop, and I like the daily too. The daily is actually not bad. We're sitting right at a level which I'm gonna mark down now because we're talking about it. This 130 level where the price action is. And let's see. We've been holding that pre-market now. Let's see where that goes. But I really like the opportunity on mRNA this morning. Here's QCOM, and I did here on earnings on this one, Norman. Right now they're down 8.4, 320,000.
Yeah, you mentioned it. You got it. Earnings.
Yep. So we'll see.
Outlook was bad. Guidance bad.
Yeah. Now QCOM, again, it's just sometimes it can be brutal even with earnings. But today we'll see. I like this drop here. I like that we're losing a lot of the daily levels that we had here recently. We blew right through those. So let's see where QCOM goes today. NVAX, is this sympathy move with
mRNA is ripping right now. They must have their call going on or something.
Okay. Yeah. I see that. Yeah. It's holding that 130 and shooting up to 136. Guys, careful if you're trading pre-market this thing, right? Just be very
Be
careful.
careful.
This thing is moving.
Spread is horrendous.
So $1.50.
Spread is $1.72 right there.
Yeah, it's getting.
Yeah, be super careful.
Nasty. NVEX is on our list as well. They are also down. It must be sympathy, right? Because see, they're trying to push up here as well. I think my chart's trying to load. There it is. So mRNA, I think will be the one to watch today. If you want to maybe
for sure, just mind
tag.
your size, because it can move wildly, as we know.
Yeah, we're seeing that right now for sure. All right, heading down, guys. So that's NVEX RCL. Wow, I have not seen this ticker in a very long time. Usually we're looking at NCLH or CCL, but RCL earnings this morning, right? Yeah, pre-market earnings. So, and any of the other cruise lines doing anything as far as earnings or CCL? I prefer to trade other tickers. No, CCL looks like it had their earnings already. NCLH already. Pre-market earnings coming up on the 8th. I prefer any of these.
Trash these days, man.
Yeah, I prefer the other ones, but again, RCL earnings today. If you like this one, it doesn't look good to me. And you can see a little bit of action on CCL and also on NCLH this morning based on this year is what I'm taking. So not a big fan right now. We need more volume on this thing. If it hits the scanners, maybe we can take advantage. And look at NVEX popping here. mRNA. What is mRNA doing here? It's just, mRNA taking off, guys. So careful there. All right. Next, we have Chinese tickers on deck now. Billy, Neo. I see Lee and no Baba this morning. Okay. Let's take a look. Neo, again, volume just, it's getting nasty. It's not getting clean at all. Lee is on here as well. Nothing to see there. Let's take a look at Baba. They're not looking great this morning. They've been great the last couple of days, but this morning not so hot. Shopify at the moment, I know they had the nice gap up and run up a few days ago, hit 36, and it looks like they're just kind of turning down here now. You know what? I don't like Shopify, but I do like this 36 resistance that we just hit, and we're kind of just slamming down slowly. That could be a nice run to 31 if we're going to be weak for the rest of the day here. So if you like Shopify, that could be interesting. I don't like the volume on this one, so I'm going to keep it off my list, but this could be a nice one if it gets volume. We'll do two more, guys. Roblox and NVIDIA, and then we'll get to what you guys have. Oh, and Apple's coming up here as well. And we'll get to what you guys have. NVIDIA, I like NVIDIA. This is nice. NVIDIA is real good, guys. Look at that. Look at that nice daily resistance area that we're breaking down from. Look at the pre-market action, although we only have 327,000. That is good volume for NVIDIA. And look how clean this thing is dropping. Are the Q SPY dropping? Yeah, that's what's causing it. All right. So Apple's going to be the same thing. If that continues, this list is going to get massive very quickly. As you see, usual suspects are starting to show up here. Apple, Baba, and so forth. So let's stop here. Norm, anything on your end that we didn't cover that you have?
I'm watching Meta now that it's down here at $90 and Amazon as well. Seeing when these things bounce at all. Who knows? I'm not predicting they will today, but I anticipate at some point we're going to.
Yeah, especially Amazon. I'm shocked how much Amazon has dropped the last 2 days, right? Even after gapping down so much. So very interested in Amazon. Meta as well. Meta's going to go to like 50. It's just insane. This thing just keeps dropping. So both of these really, really good. I'll keep Amazon on my main list, Meta on my secondary, just based on preference, but they're both really good potential plays today on volume as well if they get the volume. All right, excellent, guys. Let's take it to the room and over to our YouTube chat, see what you guys like this morning. So we have Meta on deck. CCL, not a fan of trade to give on CCL right now. I know they're moving based on RCL's earnings. I think we're just going to have better things to look at today, right? That's just my thought on it. But if you have space, you can definitely throw it on there. mRNA is on deck, guys. Yeah, so that one's good to go. And look at this, ripping to 140. Definitely play volume. It's coming in nicely. So that is good. Let's look at Tesla. Yeah, Tesla is going to be another one that looks good on the daily as well. Again, we're getting to the point now where you're going to have, you could pick your favorite last 5 tickers that you traded of your usual suspects list and you'll be fine.
That's kind of how I'm feeling today. I mean, I like Roku.
Mm-hmm.
I guess Roka is a streaming company that makes vaccines. I blended that in Maduro. Piton, I
stuff.
wish I could like it, but $7, I'm not going to.
That is the only thing I don't like about this thing. Pre-market volume, everything else looks good. It's just the price tag. It's not attractive. Um, yeah. So before we continue, guys, let's just quickly look at this because I think a lot of you're gonna come up with a lot of tickers now just because the SPY is dropping.
Yeah.
But Roku we're gonna keep. Piton is a good possible. mRNA's got its own thing going on, so I want to see that. We got QCOM, and then after these four, right, which have earnings or some kind of news out. Then we start getting into our usual suspect. And here, from down here after these four, you can pick your favorites. I'm going to keep NVIDIA, which is a nice one. Apple trades very well. Amazon for me has been very interesting on this daily. And then Tesla is great. I have way too many up here already, but Tesla is one that's going to be in play. We'll do levels for all of this here. And this gappers list on the downside is going to grow drastically as we move forward here. I'm going to look at one more D-Dog because someone mentioned it here, and it's not something that's moving with the market as it is up this morning, hitting our gap up list. Yeah, this is a tough trader, man. This is a tough one. Spread is not great. Yeah, I don't see me trading this one. I got other opportunities that are going to trade a lot better. And then the last one here, Etsy. I know Jared mentioned Etsy. They had earnings. I'm going to add this to my secondary list because they could be good today. They're up, but they could be losing some ground based on what the overall market is doing now. So let's keep an eye on that one. All right, great. We have a NVIDIA and AMD have separate catalysts. They do. What's their catalyst? For me, they're just moving with the market right now. They're just moving with the overall SPY and the Qs and just all tech companies. I know AMD had earnings 2 days ago, right? Was it yesterday? It was yesterday. But for the most part, I don't think their catalyst is going to be as strong as this overall market right now in the Qs. That's just my take on it. All right, let's with that said, let's head over to bearbluetraders.com and see what's coming up for the next 2 weeks as we start to end this week.
All right. As Carlos mentioned, you can go to bearbulletraders.com and go to the webinars tab in the nav bar at the top, or if you can, or you can go to bearbulletraders.com/webinar, see what we've got going on for the next couple of weeks at any given time. 8 p.m. Eastern every Monday, onboarding technology with Carlos, particularly for new traders. Then strategies on Tuesday, Thor next week, VPA the How at 8 p.m. Eastern. The following week, Peter will be talking about creating and maintaining a trading journal. Wednesday, Creta next week, 5 p.m. Eastern, how to identify negative thinking. And then the following week, Money Mindset with Mike, is really talking about the psychology of P&L and how that can affect your trading if you're focusing on that instead of the trade. On Thursday, we focus on mentorship. You've got John at 11 a.m. and Thor at 8. Those probably aren't happening today because of travel. I don't know. Thor might be home by the time that comes, so he might be there. Yeah. John, I know, will be on a plane. So don't forget about tradingterminal.com, our library, our depository, I'm not sure of trading information that you can find there. Anything from the earnings calendar to heat map and charting, scanners, of course. And you can also get to the simulator there directly at stocktradingsimulator.com, where you can use our free web-based replay simulator to hone your trading skills 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you're watching on YouTube and you haven't been in the chat, you'd like to give it a shot, you can do so with a no obligation trial. It is 1 week, 7 calendar days, 5 trading days in the room. It is a one-time payment. It will not bill you again. Use a promo code PreMarket24 when you sign up for that intro to get a discount. And if you'd like to become an elite member, use the promo code READ50 to get half off the elite annual membership and a free one-on-one coaching session with Dr. Kenneth Reed. Now that I'm through with that, I just want to thank everybody for coming out to Fort Lauderdale. It was awesome to meet many of you. Many of you. I think it went really well. We had a full, large room that we had to keep getting larger and larger until we essentially got it to capacity. And it was fantastic, man. It was really enjoyable. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you. Be a little bit patient with us. Be a little bit patient with us today. That's a little bit hectic travel schedule for everybody. We're going to fill in as we can today on the mic, whoever's around. I have to leave at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning to go sailing for the next 4 days. So I won't see you until Tuesday. But Peter should be covering my slot here tomorrow. And yeah. So anyway, you guys have an awesome weekend. And thank you. It was great to see everybody.
That's amazing, Norm. You have an amazing time on your travels, man. Looking forward
thank
to
you,
hear
Carlos.
about
It's
your
supposed to,
trip
man.
back.
It's supposed to suck tomorrow.
Well, tomorrow is
massive thunderstorms coming to hit us tomorrow. But after
right, but
that,
that's
it
the
should be
class,
nice.
though, right? That's just with the class you're taking.
No. I'll be on a boat in the Houston Ship Channel
Oh,
with storms going
good
through.
luck, man. Hopefully, it's not as bad.
Soaking
Oh
wet,
man.
cold.
Ah.
Take care, guys.
All right, take it easy. No, we'll talk to you soon. All right, guys, let's hop in here. Again, this list building as things are moving on the gap up list here as a SPY. It kind of took a little dive there and took many tickers with them. Let's see here. The SPY at the moment trying to hold down just slightly at below 1% there at the moment. So again, big day yesterday, as you can see here. And obviously, we'll see how far today is going to get. And are we going to be dropping down to some of these levels we have seen on the SPY? 363. Obviously, another one over here. And then, of course, the low, the most recent low here, 347, which many people think is the bottom. Are we going to test that? Are we going to make a new bottom? Don't think that's not going to happen today, but definitely in the next couple of days, we should be seeing something there. Our list this morning, we have a ton of stuff. Roku on deck there with earnings. I think, and then this might be a little bit of an overreaction, but we'll see. P-ton here as well. We have mRNA, which started to just take off here, hit from 130 to 140, $10 pop there in just a couple of minutes. So we got to wait for the market open on this one. The spread pre-market right now is pretty nasty. QCOM also seeing some action towards the upside here as well. So I like that one. And then we start getting into our usual suspect, NVIDIA, Apple, Amazon, and Tesla. These four here really are going to be moving with the overall market. They might have their own catalyst, as I heard from NVIDIA, might have its own. I know Tesla with China production issues in China might also be affected by that. But at the end of the day, man, when the Qs and the SPY starts doing what they start doing heavily in one direction, these just follow suit. Very rarely are they doing their own thing unless they have some out of this world catalyst that's gonna go against the SPY, which is very difficult to do during these market conditions. So let's get some levels. We got quite a few here, but we should be able to get through everything. This is not going to be my final list. It's way too many, but I think it's worth having some levels on there, and then we can move some stuff towards the downside into some of our possibles area that we have over here. So let's start with Roku. And as I'm going through these guys, if you see something popping up, definitely throw it back out. I will take a look at it. Roku this morning, good volume, guys. 1 million shares traded so far. Normally, they don't have great volume. But today they're definitely doing pretty good. So 42.58 is the low of the pre-market, 42.57 to be exact on Roku. Towards the top, the high of the pre-market sitting at 45.23. So 45.23 high of the pre-market there. Price action right now is interesting area. You can see we had a little bit of support around 630, more support before we dropped to 42.58, and then we're just kind of flirting with this area here. So might be worth noting this is going to be 43.16. Let's do a level there just to see how that continues to play out there. Now towards the top, we do have a level 47.27. All the way up here over at 51.31, and then you start getting into your highs and lows of the last 2 trading days. I think there's going to be some kind of gap closure here if the market doesn't decide to just sell off drastically. There might be a gap fill there if we can get that going. Man, look at Roku. Can you believe Roku's at 425? And hanging out at 350 for quite some time. I mean, man, look at this. It is insane. We have not been down here in quite some time. 2018 is what I'm seeing, or we might have some levels below the pre-market over at 42.57. And if we look at this daily here between 2018 November and February 2019, we do have some areas here that are interesting. This one here, 39. 39.76. Actually, in between here's another great daily level, also 41.59. So I think that's plenty for us on Roku, and 37.54 in case the market decides to take a huge dive. We can definitely get into those levels depending on how the overall market decides to trade after reacting to the FOMC numbers and meeting minutes yesterday. Here's Piton. Again, Piton, I like everything about it, guys. The only thing I'm not too happy with is how low the price is. But let's see what we can get here. Low of the pre-market, 685 at the moment. Price action right now in an area of interest is going to be here at 744. I like that here of the daily. You can see there's a couple of days slamming against that opening, closing right around that area. And there's just no coincidence that you're seeing some action in this area already, right? This is not out of the blue. So you're seeing how the daily is also playing out in the pre-market already. So you want to have that there. Towards the bottom, before we get to that pre-market low, I like 710 here. Got a couple of days as well, opening, closing in this area. So 710, I think it's worth it. A little bit of support after you created the low, got the bounce, and you have some support at 710 very early on this morning. So that looks good there. Towards the top, your highs and lows are all the way between 920 and 860, right? 840, all the way up here. Let's get some levels in between here just to have ourselves cover if we do want to kind of head back towards the north here. We're going to mark down 802, whole dollar number there. Good support across the board, resistance as well. And then before we get there, we also have 772, a great area where you're seeing, especially in October, a lot of activity happening right on there as well. So we got some good levels on this thing. Pre-market, you're seeing some of those levels already being respected here off the daily. So I like Piton for that. We'll see what that. I might end up moving that one down, but the volume and the gap down of 14% this morning is interesting. It is very, very interesting. mRNA is getting a little bit of a pop here, down 8%. Great volume. Pre-market activity is all over the place at the moment with a lot of again a very big spread. Some levels here for you. 130 we marked earlier. Pre-market support there. 125.13, another area on the daily where you have a little bit of some ping pong action here, creating some pretty strong levels. Love the pre-market in this 118.24, and look at the stop right at 118.24, and then the takeoff, right? So this level for mRNA is pretty solid support there. Heading towards the top, guys, we're looking at the daily here. Again, these levels on the mRNA, I'm surprised how clean they are. Look at 140, another very, very clean level. We almost got to it right now. We had this a $10 pop from 130 to 140. So I like that there as well. Price action right now, sitting at a might be a minor area as well, 135 or so. But again, I really like the 140 level here. And if we break out of that, we do have our highs and lows all the way up there above 147.50 all the way to 160. Guys, this is a ticker that you do not need to take a lot of shares on, right? You could take 200 shares, you could take 100 shares, and you could do very well if you're starting out, even less, right? This is going to move a couple of dollars. I mean, just look at this one move here. This is a $10 move, right? Just do the math, right? You don't need to take a whole lot of shares to join the party here and make a good profit or a decent profit. What you don't want to do is, take a bunch of shares and then find yourself on the other side of the fence where things are not so pretty and you're down a big chunk, right? So just keep that in mind when you're making a decision on how many shares you're going to take. Think about how much are you willing to pay for this trade, right? And keep in mind that it can go against your direction. So be prepared for that. Risk management. I know we say it a lot, but it's something that has to be repeated over and over and over again, because this is where traders make mistakes, right? This is where traders make mistakes. So be very, very careful. As we're doing this, Roku taking off here from 43 all the way up to the high of the pre-market. Pretty not yet. 40 high of the pre-market, 45.23. Their call is going on right now. Did they say anything interesting? Anybody listening to the call? But for the most part, they're taking off here. And again, Norm kind of mentioned this. He was shocked on how much this thing dropped. So maybe an overreaction, because again, there's nothing. We all know advertising and streaming services and everything is not great. Google has reported that. Netflix has reported that. Everybody's just scrambling because as things are expensive and inflation doesn't go down, people start cutting things, and usually these services can go pretty quickly. All right, so let's see here. Roku, we have Piton. We left over here with mRNA is good. QCOM this morning. Man, I'm gonna end up moving QCOM down, I think. It's just I'm seeing some signs of this thing just not being a great trade. But let's do levels first, and then we'll decide what to do with this later. 102.52 low of the pre-market, high of the pre-market sitting at 105.60, slam a level there, and then above that, highs and lows of the last two trading days between 112 and 120. So good areas there. And then here you got tons of support happening here. We got 109, around 110. It's minor area support over at 108.50. So we'll leave that there for now. And then I want to see, we are definitely 52-week low. So we're very, very weak this morning on QCOM. And I think from here we had that's a gap up. Man, that's a huge gap up on July. This is July 2020. Look at this gap up. We went from 92.94 all the way to 101. So I'm going to mark down 101.03. That's the level, a couple of levels below the pre-market low at the moment. And then we have this massive gap up. Look at the volume here on July. So that's what we have there. We are looking good on QCOM, but I'm not sure about this pre-market action right now. I do like the gap down of 7.6. We'll have to figure this out. All right, let's keep an eye on Roku. What are we up to? Are we sticking to this move here? We're trying. Looks like it wants to break out. This is an area here too on Roku. 44. You see it struggling there. There it goes. Nice rip. Let's see. Man, it's going to go to the high of the pre-market. Is it going to close? No, the gap is actually pretty far out. 17%. Might not do that in one swift move, but definitely looking very active this morning. So yeah, Roku looking good. Let's finish our list here. NVIDIA is up next. Now we start getting into our usual suspect, and this list you can look at any ticker that has activity that you watch on a regular basis. The overall market can help today to catch some moves here. NVIDIA low of the pre-market 128.87, below that daily looking real nice over at 124.20. Nice area support and resistance. You see that across the board there. We have another one right over here, and obviously down here as well, we're seeing some areas. This is the bottom of the, well, not the bottom. This is the lowest point in the last couple of days. As the SPY helped us create that 108.18, 114, and then we do have this one here over at 120.55. So towards the bottom, we are all set, guys. Again, I don't think we're going to be hitting any of these levels all the way down here, but that 124, that 120, that's not far-fetched the way this market can move, right? Here is Apple. Great volume, getting some decent activity this morning. 141.72, looking pretty good there. I'm also going to mark down here 138.09, heading down to the bottom, 134.45. So good stuff there on Apple. Towards the top, guys, we got plenty. I'm actually going to remove these two levels from here. Let's get rid of that one, and we don't need this one anymore because we have our highs and lows of the last two trading days and our previous day close. Actually, I'm going to bring this one back. This one, I don't know if I had so. This 147.11, that is a real good one there, as you can see on the daily, between the highs and lows of the last two trading days and the previous day close. So that is looking pretty decent there. Other than that, I'm going to get at least one level below the low of the pre-market over at 140.52, and then a clean one down here, 138.43, looking really good as well. So we are set there with Apple. Let's take a look at Amazon. Again, Amazon's daily is just insane. At the moment, we have our highs and lows of the last two trading days surrounding above the price action. High of the pre-market, we're looking at 93.34. And I remember we haven't been down here in quite some time. I'm actually going to go ahead and look at a monthly and get some levels towards the bottom. Last time we were down here was 2020, January, February timeframe. And you have this one level here at 81.47. And then we have another one over at 85. And I remember Jared saying 85 there was a big level at 85. So I'm going to mark down 85. When he was doing the analysis on this thing, when it had the big gap down or the earnings were coming up, 85 was a number that he'd like, if I remember correct. So I'm going to mark that down too, just in case. I mean, this thing is not having fun as it continues to drop here. I'm really surprised in the last two trading days how much this thing dropped, how much it has lost after the gap down here. So that is interesting to me on Amazon. And then we have Tesla, one of our usual buddies here, which again, trading amazing this morning. 1.2 million shares traded so far. Low of the pre-market sitting right there at 210.68. And then we have a level here at 198. And we also have 205.32. Then towards the top, guys, you have plenty of stuff. The only thing I'm going to mark down on Tesla is going to be my high of the pre-market, 217. And I think on Tesla, you're done. We have a lot this morning. Again, I'm not going to keep this list. I'm going to fine tune it before we get off the show here to make this a little bit easier. All right, Roku, how are we doing here? Are we moving? Are we popping up? We're stalling over at 144.75, but definitely in play. Volume's coming in nicely on this thing, 1.3 million. Down only 18% now, recovering from all the way from the lows of 42.58 this morning. mRNA also had a nice move, and this is setting up pretty nice as far as the pre-market action. But again, just you gotta look here. You have to look at the spread. So if you look at where is it right here, level 1.
So,
This
hey,
is nasty.
buddy,
Yeah.
getting some messages from some of the other mods. They're not able to get into the room. They're getting a weird error message saying your access to the site's been temporarily limited by the site owner. Has anybody had any problems logging into the room this morning? I'm thinking it has something. They're all in the hotel. Okay,
It's probably
so if you
2
have
p.m.
gotten that error, are you in the hotel? No. Yes, in the hotel. Got that. Is there anybody in here that got that message that's not at the hotel?
Damn, you was the Russell.
No. It's all okay. It is all a hotel Wi-Fi issue. Then it seems. All right, I appreciate.
So yeah, guys. So mRNA here pushing up higher, and again, just the spread is just brutal on this thing. If you look here, this is a quick way to look at the spread too. If you look up here, level 1. And I think the way they calculate this, if I remember correctly, it's going to show you, it's not going to show you the first price up here. Like, for example, you see that 137.40. It's not going to show you that. It's going to show you the first slot that has a whole lot. And what I mean by lot is meaning like it has 100 shares, at least 100 shares, right? So it's not going to count the 0. So it's a great way to look at that because sometimes you see some numbers up here and you think the spread is $1. And there could be a guy there with just literally 5 shares, 2 shares, 3 shares. And it's going to show up. It could be 1 share. And it's going to show up here as a 0. So this would give you an idea of how bad the spread can be, if you were to enter that trade. So you can see there, it was at one point it was $1.50 on this thing. So again, just very mindful if you're going to be trading this pre-market. But aside from that spread, which I hope it gets better at the market open, right now mRNA is real nice. It is real nice. So I definitely like what I'm seeing there. A couple of moderators, well, not a couple. I think Thor's the only one that has access to get to the room because he has a Florida VIP pass. What's going on over there? So I only have Thor's list this morning. This SPY, Qs, Roku, Tesla, Amazon, and Apple for him so far. So very good.
Thor, you got that message as well, right? And then you switched to your phone as a hotspot.
That's what he did. Okay.
Yeah. So my guess is the system's not liking a whole bunch of things coming all from the same IP address.
Yeah, I probably think something's up. Yeah. All right, folks, we have a great list. 9/11 at the moment. We have a nice list so far. Let's hit that thumbs up over on YouTube if you appreciate what we're doing as far as the content and our show every morning. We appreciate the love there. Roku's moving again. Roku's nice. We got a lot of stuff going on here. I'm going to fine tune this list. We got a couple of minutes left, and I don't think we're going to get a lot of the moderators' list as they work to get into that issue resolved. So let's just fine tune this list here. We have Roku, Piton, mRNA, QCOM. I think I'm going to move QCOM down, guys. It's the top possible. I know they have earnings and it can move very well, but just for my personal preference, I'm going to move this one down. Let's get some. There we go. And then Amazon, I like. Apple is good. mRNA is good. Piton. Unfortunately, I'm going to move Piton down because I got to get this list under 6. And the only reason I'm doing this, guys, is because the price. That's it, right? I prefer something above $20, preferably $10. I'm okay with. Below that, it gets a little funky. I did trade ENVX yesterday with Brian, right? And this was a kind of lower price one too, and it was like a little weird at first, but it did turn out to be a really nice trade for a lot of us there. But yeah, I prefer things over $20. But I think this is a very much manageable list here. Tesla, Amazon, Apple, Nvidia, mRNA, and Roku looking really, really good this morning, guys. All right, perfect. Norm, anything on your end that you are like so far this morning?
Well, there was just a squawk on Tesla, and it's starting to get a little bit of volume. It hadn't really done much yet, but
Which one?
Tesla.
Oh, Tesla. Yeah, yeah, got a nice bounce going here at the moment. They got great volume already, right? Let's see. Yeah, these guys are in place. They're looking real
Looks
nice
like it
this
wants to
morning.
pop through 212, but we'll see.
Yeah, yeah. So that is playing well there. Um, Gap down list, guys, continues to grow here. Even our gap up list, Hood is on our gap up list. What's going on there? Let's take a look. This is Robinhood, and they are. Oh no, nothing to see. Rewind. Let's go back to what we're talking about. Dan, earnings on Hood. Is that what it is? Earnings. Oh well, after no earnings last night. Okay, earnings last night doesn't look great though this morning. Doesn't look great so far. Maybe we have to wait for the market open if they are going to be doing anything. But I would have liked to see more activity. We're not getting that on Hood at the moment. Thanks, Dan. Folks over on YouTube, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it very much. I'm not showing you any moderators list because we only have Thor with the connections down issues down in Florida.
So I think they're in the process of getting it cleared up. I think Ryan's given some special permissions to that IP, so we'll see what happens. They should start showing up here.
Yeah, so we should see them shortly coming into our chat room. But over on YouTube, thank you so much for joining us, guys. We appreciate it very much. Trade safe today. It is Thursday. We had a very good list this morning. It's a lot going on with, look at Roku, man. Roku wants to pop. Roku wants to like go to 45.
I know, man. I took a trade on that.
You did?
Just
Oh, nice.
of the stuff I got going on for the rest of the day. Yeah. I caught it. I'll post it here in just a second. I'm out. I got out a little prematurely, but
that is cranking, man.
it
There it
looks like it
goes.
still wants to go though to me. So this is a nice way to end my week.
Sweet, man. Sweet. Nice and early too, because I know you got a lot of stuff to run through this morning. So yeah, man. Let's take a look at Norm's trade here. And what do we got going on? Oh man, nice entry. Very nice. So here's the entry. Look at this partial, man. Look at that partial. That is a thing of beauty, my friend. And you're still in this, right? You still got some left?
No, I'm done.
You're done?
I'm
Okay.
done. I got too much stuff I got to take care of. So
Gotcha.
kind of stalled out anyway. It looks like it wants to go higher. It's forming a bit of a wedge there. So we'll see. We'll see what'll happen.
Yeah, so some good runners in the pre-market so far, guys. But yeah, guys, take care, trade safe, hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so. We appreciate you guys. Tomorrow, no engineering the markets as it is Friday. But I'll be here with Peter at 8:30 a.m. to get us all set up and end the week, guys. So stay tuned for that, and I look forward to seeing you guys then. So take care, guys, and trade safe.
Take care, guys. Trade safe.